Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Dragonheir SilentGods video. In today's video, I want to talk about the Resurgent Dragon God, aka the Endgame, aka Undying Inferno Cyprian. So I thought that in this video, I will try and do the best guide that I can. You know, that's why I called it on the thumbnail, the Ultimate Resurgent Guide. Resurgent Dragon Guide, because it's a little bit different, it's a little bit more complex, and there are some key components that you definitely need to bring or to keep in mind when tackling this boss, because you know it's gonna make a massive difference between actually doing big amounts of damage or actually not doing it. Obviously, you might be limited depending on your roster and whatnot, but still, I'm gonna try and give you the best ideas, go through all of the skills and what the boss does, and try and talk a little bit about it, okay? So the way that I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna move myself, I guess, to this side, and I'm gonna go through the skills. Like if you click on the view info, it's gonna show you all the skills and whatnot. First thing that you need to keep in mind is that after, you know, the boss takes 90% less damage after taking more than 200 million damage in the battle. So if you have insane teams and you hit over 200 million, which my maximum was 140 before 50%, then it's like 130. So if you're somebody like Arsenal, my clan leader, that has some insane teams, keep in mind that, you know, over 200 million, you're not going to be getting the maximum. So maybe split them up a bit. Then the next thing is the fact that you're going to be needing around 320 accuracy in order to land your debuffs. But do keep in mind, if you have the alliance bonuses, if I'm going to show you, if you have the alliance bonuses, basically you're going to go, okay, I need 320 accuracy minus the 40 from here because it does not count in your stats. That means you're going to need 280, okay? Then if you talk about having elemental affinities, you take away another 50, which means you only need 230 accuracy, like that's would say here on your stats, okay? If you have 230, you're good. Anything over that is gonna be overkill and not necessary. You would rather throw those stats in survivability or in more damage. So that's number one. Then anything else everything else is gonna be skills. Tip number two, though, I want to mention this, is try your best to keep this 5-element affinity, okay? Try to keep the 5-element pairing, because when it comes to the end game, when you get to this point, you should have everything maxed, okay? You should have all of these ones completely maxed, which means if you have 5 people of the same element or the same synergy, you know, Radiance, Lightning, Fire, Poison, Frost, Necrosis, if you have 5 of the same group, you're gonna get 25% straight up more damage, 30% more crit damage, or like whatever stats it has for that pairing, like 39% attack, 15% extra damage, and then you're also gonna get 15%, it says total resistance bonus, but this one's basically damage mitigation. You take 15% less damage. These ones are gonna be huge, so do your best to try and keep them 5-element. If you cannot, then obviously you're gonna do your best teams, and it is what it is. And then I guess the last one, that's, or maybe I'm going to remember some more stuff on the way, but obviously you're going to try to get 6 team if you possibly can. The main goal for you is going to be to try and get 140 million per day as the total, so you get the top chest from over here. But after that, obviously, if you can get some more damage for the end ranking, basically, if you do manage to place in this ranking, you're gonna see that depending how you place, you're gonna get some more Echoes of Clips Hydra, more Worm Arrow, maybe some scrolls, whatnot, depending how you place, and these ones are obviously going to count towards the end. But honestly, I'm not sure. Actually, let me see, 35,000, or is it, yeah, 35,000, 40,000. So they're not that massive of a change. You know, it's not like, oh, if you don't place over here, that's it, you're screwed. No, you're going to get a little bit of extra stuff from here. You're going to get some bonuses, but it does not mean you're going to, you know, you're going to lose out if you don't get nothing from this one. Or am I not reading this right? So let's see. 1,000, yeah, 20,000. So it's not like you miss out. Your main goal should be to get to the 140 million. Now let's go through the skills of the boss, because these are really important, okay? These are really important. It's gonna make it easy or hard for you to deal with them if you know what to bring in there. So the first skill is pretty simple and pretty straightforward. Deals AoE damage 3 times, okay? So just straight up a 3-hitter on the full board. Oh yeah, another thing, I guess when we're talking about board and positioning, you don't really care about like having a certain position, like, oh yeah, let me split, then let me do this. No, the best way to do is try to have them paired in whichever way makes sense for your healers, your supports, your AoE DPS, because I notice it's some weird stuff, but as an example, when I have somebody like a Filto that shoots in a straight line, let me see, do I have a Galdras that I can show you that has something similar? Okay, maybe somebody like him. So if you have somebody that has like straight line hits, oh yeah, I guess I can show Kalis. Let me show you Kalis. If you have somebody like this, I noticed that having my filter, for example, somebody like that in this position is the best opposed to having here, because I guess it does not hit the arm. It's weird, like there's not perfect explanation of how the target is, but by having the like I said, the person has just straight line over here, help me hit the arm and the main body. But yeah, positioning, it doesn't really matter, like, you know, to spread them apart or whatnot. He hits on full board, so you don't care. Just pair them and place them in whichever way makes sense for your team to get buffed, to land debuffs, to keep them together, okay? If you have more than 2 melee, they're gonna start splitting up, okay? So keep that in mind as well. But let's go back to the skills. So the first AoE is the same if you're under 50% or over 50%, okay? Definitely keep this part in mind, okay? The difficulty will increase when the boss's HP is reduced to 50%. I'm gonna explain these while I go through the skills, and I'm gonna tell you the difference. So the first one the same, but then the second one, this is the one that changes. So sweeps forward with its claw, dealing fire damage to all enemies. Again, full board hit, and dispels all their buffs, okay? Dispels all of them. So if you have somebody that brings you lots of buffs, try to use them after this one happens, or along, you know, a bit of a time before this happens. The change is, if you're under 50%, this one says it only dispels one buff, okay? So if you have multiple buffs in your teams, that should be fine. It only dispels one. It is what it is. But this one can be really tricky if you have a rally team, for example, because if your people put up rally and are about to go to consume that rally to do damage, but the boss does this and removes that one buff under 50% or all of them, they're going to do a lot less damage. So keep that in mind. That's going to be really important when it comes to dealing damage if you try to like maybe have them speed tuned or whatnot and try to get synchronization. So this is the only downside, I guess, for this one. And do keep in mind the fact that it will not dispel shields, okay? Shields count as completely different buff. Like shields are not as part of the buffs themselves. I don't know why, but they will not be dispelled. So if you put shields before this one, you're gonna be good. Now let's move over to the next one, Blazing Tornado. Okay, this is where it starts becoming tricky, serious, and annoying. So flaps its wings, deals fire damage to all enemies, inflicting recharging speed penalty for 15 seconds. This is all that's happening if you're under 50% HP, okay? If you're under 50% HP, he only does this AoE and places recharge speed penalty. That's already annoying enough. But if it's over 50% HP, which is here, enemies with ultimate energy lower than 50% will be inflicted with accuracy penalty for 15 seconds. So not only the recharge speed penalty is annoying, but also the accuracy penalty itself is really annoying, because if you have people that land debuffs, maybe just before the boss goes, you want to land that attack penalty. Well, if you have accuracy penalty, there's a high chance you're not going to be landing it. So this is the first part where it's going to become, you know, tricky, and you're going to need some ways to deal with it. But I'm going to talk about it after we read the next skill, because from what I've seen, it's like they kind of come hand in hand, and they will require the same tactic, okay? So the next skill is sweeps its tail in wide area, basically again, AoE damage to all enemies, inflicting defense penalty 2 for 20 seconds. Now this is massive. This one can do some crazy amounts of, you know, if you have this one and the boss hits you, you're going to be taking a lot of damage, and you do not want that. So the advantage of these two skills is that there's a 6-second interval between them, okay? So like 6 to 10 seconds, because it casts it, but it doesn't land, the debuff does not land exactly when the boss does this one. So the best ways to deal with these ones is to have debuff immunity, okay? That's gonna be number one. Have debuff immunity land before the boss lands the recharge speed penalty. I cannot show you because it is my teams, but let's just go through the gallery and see who are going to be some options for that one. So if you go over there, if you click on the filter and then you just look at, okay, let's see buffs, debuff immunity. So there's not too many. Okay, this is where it becomes tricky. There's not too many, and some of them are legendary, and some of them are not AoE. Okay, so the first example is Garion. He's good, but not good enough because he only has it on the battle skill, okay? He doesn't have it on the ultimate, which means he's only gonna protect one person, so he's not gonna be good enough for this tactic specifically. Then we have Catherine. Catherine will be amazing because she has a wide area. She does it on the ultimate, so she would be the perfect candidate. So for your Radiant or Lightning team, Catherine should 100% be in that team. Then the next one that we have in here is Thea. Thea's a bit tricky because she only lands it on ranged allies, okay? So under her ultimate, grants invisibility and debuff immunity to all ranged allies for 10 seconds. Then she does a hit and healing prohibition. You don't care about this one. So if you're gonna rely on Thea for your Necrosis Frost team to be your debuff immunity, so kind of like, you know, she would be the support, then she would also bring a bit of healing on the battle skill, you will have to have only ranged heroes alongside her, okay? Only ranged heroes, or maybe you have a tank, or like a melee one, but you give them resist if you really care about having them speed tuned. So keep that in mind. Thea helpful, but they have to be ranged. The next one's gonna be Estella. On the battle skill, debuff immunity not good enough because it's only one person, and then healing is quirky. She can be good as a healer, but not for debuff immunity. Now, the one that I love and is arguably the best, actually the best one when it comes to epics or below, is Gladros. I made already a video yesterday on this guy, just go check that one out, but he's just amazing because not only does he bring debuff immunity, but he also brings shields, okay? And basically it's his shields also give debuff immunity. I'm going to talk about it later once we go to the next part, but shields are insanely good in this fight. So the fact that he brings two of the best things that you need in this fight, shields and debuff immunity, makes him a god for this fight. And he also steals some attack from the boss, which makes him be even better. The passive doesn't help us. It's all about this ultimate, and I just love him. He's awesome. Then we obviously have the legendaries. We have a Celia that does debuff immunity full board on her ultimate, which is pretty good. She also is going to bring you lots of healing and so some passives in there, you know, that can bring some other stuff. So Celia is going to be awesome. Mithrasia again, really good. I used her in my main team. She brings debuff immunity on the ultimate, plus invisibility, plus healing on the battle skill. So again, Mithrasia, she's a goddess. Then we have Sagomir, but Sagomir is not good because again, he only does it on himself. He only puts debuff immunity on himself on the battle skill, which is not good enough. And then the last one's gonna be Torin. Honestly, don't know where he places it. Marked ally will not grant invisibility, will gain debuff. Okay, so this one's again only single target, so he's not gonna be that good. So we see that we're kind of stuck. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 people that do AoE debuff immunity in the whole game, okay, for the whole team. That's not good enough, which is gonna take us to point number 2. If you don't have debuff immunity, your next option is gonna be, okay, you're gonna need to cleanse. But the tricky thing is, there's 2 debuffs, especially when you go to higher stages on this AoE, and then there's a third one on this one. So how many heroes do we actually have that do full team cleanse? There's not that many, honestly. There's not that many. I think only legendaries. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's not an option here to look for cleansing, but I'm gonna tell you like this. The first and best one to do that tactic, if you're just gonna want to cleanse afterwards, it's gonna be a rare. And that is our good old tank Fitz, okay? Keep Fitz in mind. If you use him to do his ultimate before all the debuffs land, basically you're cleansing your whole team, because what he does transfers all debuffs to the hero from all allies, okay? So basically full team cleanse, and if you build him with high enough resist, he's basically not gonna take any debuff. So Fitz can just come in that team to be that utility champion of full cleansing on the ultimate, and then just put him in ancestral protection. He's gonna be doing his job just fine. Then other ones that can do some cleansing, well, there's Anna, but she does single target cleanse. So, you know, single target, one debuff only. That's not good enough, because what's she gonna cleanse? Decrease accuracy, recharge speed, defense penalty. That's not gonna be good enough. Then the next one, I think, is gonna be from the epics, where we have V-Cook, for example. Again, same principle. Under 50%, he's gonna be amazing, okay? He dispels 2 debuffs, he's gonna be awesome, but when we move to the higher stage, Will he dispel the defense penalty, the recharge speed? It can be tricky. However, it's still better than only one debuff, okay? So for example, I use my V-Cook to cleanse debuffs with my normal wild team, with Tonalon, Erich, and Felicity. So that's where V-Cook can come in clutch with a little bit of healing, dispel the debuffs, and he can also bring attack penalty, okay? So that's V-Cook. Another one, let me see, who else does cleansing in there? I think Nathaniel does the same thing, but I think he does it on the battle skill. So dispels one debuff from all allies within range, but you have to place them around him, keep that in mind, and grants them recovery over time. So some healing alongside the dispel. And then on the ultimate, let's see what, I think he did some shield, right? Deals damage within range, grants shield and defense up to all allies, again in range. Or is it in, let's see, deals damage, is he, I think he's kind of same as Adolphus. Deals damage to enemies within range and grants a target max HP, enlightenment, shield, and defense up to all allies. So doesn't matter how you're placed, he's going to be all allies. But you're still going to have them around him because of the battle skill. So he's going to be amazing for that because, you know what? He's going to try and cleanse as much as he can. So I guess you would build him with lots of skill haste, enlightenment, maybe give him the artifact that makes him come back to his battle skill. It's not going to be perfect, but he's going to be useful because of this one. He's also going to bring a shield. Again, shields are really important, okay? Shields are really important in this fight. We're going to get there. Then he has a really interesting passive. Then who else? I cannot think of like some other cleansers, but you know, there's not too many. Again, that's the thing. We have Ekis that does it, but it's a only one debuff and it's on the ultimate, so high cooldown. So again, this one's pretty tricky. This fight is pretty tricky and not, you know, it's not that easy. You might just have to deal with the debuffs, have them in there, have them on you, and try to do your best that you can, okay? So those are the debuffs. Now let's move over to the last skill, okay? So the last skill is going to be a little bit combined with the passive because that's where the tricky stuff comes in. So Copper Dragon, this is the ultimate. Copper Dragon lets out a long roar, dealing fire damage, again, full board. If it has no power of the dragon, Power of Dragon Rage, we're going to read that on the what's it called, the passive. It will enter weak for 5 seconds, during which it will take 50% more damage, otherwise it will remove its debuffs, otherwise it will remove its debuff. So if you don't take that Power of Dragon Rage off, he's going to cleanse and he's going to come back at you. After that, Copper Dragon will regain 4 stacks of Power of Dragon Rage. So basically, if you're gonna take down the Power of Dragon Rage, the whole rotation of the fight is gonna be 35 seconds. If you do not, it's gonna be 30 seconds. That's something that you really need to keep in mind if you're gonna try and make some skill timings so that you land stuff at the right times. But obviously, ideally, you would like to remove this Power of Dragon Rage so that you have those extra 5 seconds, you know, in the rotation to come back to your skills, and at the same time have that 5 seconds period where you can do more damage when he's under weak, okay? But now let's look at the passive because this is what it becomes tricky. So, actually has 2 passes, but first one. Copper Dragon gains 4 stacks of Power of Dragon Rage when the battle starts or after casting Dragon's Rage Roar. So this is basically Dragon God's Roar. This is basically when the battle starts and at the end after he does his ultimate skill. When any unit on the battlefield triggers ultimate up or ultimate down, the effect will be nullified and 1 stack of the buff will be consumed instead. Okay, nullified means you're not gonna get that ultimate, okay? You're not gonna get that ultimate boost, so keep that in mind. I just realized that right now. But it's gonna remove one of his stacks, which is gonna be good. So yeah, 1 stack of the buff will be consumed instead. Additionally, Copper Dragon gains stackable total damage permanently after each cast of Dragon God's Roar. We're already used to this one. This stack, it's gonna be, they're the same symbols, unfortunately, so you're not gonna be able to tell. It might be tricky, but basically, every time he does his ultimate, he's gonna gain more damage, more damage, more damage, just like most of the other boss fights that we're used to, like Temporal Vortex, Chaos Shadows, and whatnot. So, what this one tells us is that we're gonna need ultimate up or ultimate down. Okay, so this one's gonna be a bit tricky, but let's have a look what we have as options. So, yeah, if we go in the gallery, let's see, what is it? I think it might be at instance, or we might not even have anything in here. Let's see, debuff, no, no, Okay, so it seems like we don't even have this one written down there, but there are some examples. If you look, for example, if you go in the necrosis, ultimate down is gonna be somebody like an Adri, okay? She does 3 hits and then she pushes back the ultimate energy. This one's basically gonna take 3 stacks off from that Dragon Rage. So Adri is one example. Then somebody like a Megan does on the battle skill boost one of your allies' ultimate energy, 25%. Again, it's not gonna happen, but it's gonna take down that mark. Then let's see something else. I'm just randomly showing you stuff that I realized. Felicity, as an example, if you have her for your wild team, she's the best because, well, when a basic attack or battle skill trigger a critical hit, recharges the hero's ultimate energy by 5%. Well, you're gonna build her with crit, so she's gonna be like boom, 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 4 hits. That's it. You took the Dragon Rage down. So anybody that has some side of quirkiness like this is gonna be important. Another example, somebody like a Hegio. On the battle skill, launches 2 attacks. The second one has recharges his ultimate skill by 20%. Again, this one's gonna happen. It's on the battle skill. It's gonna be often. That's gonna take down those marks. So you get the gist of it. Boosting your ultimate energy or pushing down the bosses or trying to push down the boss's ultimate energy will be the difference between you taking those marks off or not. There's 2 other ways that you can influence that by kind of like cheesing it, I guess, or not necessarily cheese, but there's 2 artifacts that can influence that, and those are 2 epic ones. I'm not sure if there's some legendary ones, because honestly, I barely have 2 of them. I don't know how more than I don't know any of these ones, honestly. I just know a few, but there are 2 epic ones, which again, it can be more relatable. The first one's going to be Spiritual Incense Burner, increases the wearer's ultimate energy by a certain percentage after unleashing ultimate skill. So if you have somebody that does 2 ultimates while the full rotation of the boss happens, you're gonna push you're gonna remove that Dragon Rage. And then the second one is this one, the Ancestor's Candle. Even though it's not the ultimate energy, it still counts, okay? It's tested, I've seen it, it still counts. And this one is arguably better because it's for the battle skill, and battle skills are more often. And again, same principle. After the wearer launches a battle skill, the recharge time will be reduced by a certain percentage. So if you don't have that much recharge, ultimate up or down, controlling your teams, keep in mind these artifacts are going to be important. They're going to be game changing, okay? So that's the part, I think that's the part of this last passive, right? Let's see. Yeah, the Dragon Rage, ultimate energy, yeah. So that's the part where we talked about the influencing of the ultimate energy. Now let's come to the last one, and this is where there's gonna be like some tips, tricks that it's maybe not as obvious or it's not stated in there, but are really important. So when the Copper Dragon deals damage, it reduces the max HP of the target by a certain percentage of the actual damage dealt. So I'm not sure if this is their way of saying damage dealt to your HP or not, but I think that's what happens. From what I've seen, if you have shields, it's not gonna take as much of your max HP. So that's what makes shields extremely important, okay? Then after the Copper Dragon takes more than 200 million damage, all subsequent damage to it will be scaled down to 10%. This one doesn't really matter, it's just this one's really important. So basically what this means is that you're gonna try to always have some sort of damage mitigation, some sort of survivability, so that you don't take as much actual damage when he hits, okay? He hits the whole board. So having stuff like defense up, attack penalty are going to be really important, but the best of the best things for this one, from what I played and what I've seen so far, are going to be shields, okay? Shields are going to be huge. They're going to be insane. They're going to be game changing. And again, if we're going to have a look at a few people that do shields, we're going to find some options. Maybe not a lot, but there's some options. Like, for example, let's go on to the rare ones. You have Dubok. Does 15% max HP shield to each ally within range. This one scales off of his max HP. You give him a ton of HP, he's going to bring you some massive shields in there and, a little bit of damage. He's not the best, but, if you have no other option, he's going to help you if you really need that shield for survivability. Then another one is going to be somebody from the same rarity, Isolde. She's going to be amazing because she gives shields, she lands attack penalty, she does some damage, she also brings defense up, she has an amazing passive, so she's huge. She's going to be just crazy for that one. Another one would be somebody like an Adolphus. Again, Adolphus is just a god. His shields are insane on the ultimate, so definitely keep him in mind. Then if you move over, for example, onto Frost, honestly, I'm not sure there's so many people that do shields. Like, I know Vinyara does some amazing shields, but the best one to keep in mind for this element is going to be the adventurer, okay? Or even if we have a look at this, Usha. Usha's gonna be amazing because she puts shield on herself on the battle skill and she does a ton of damage, okay? So Usha is definitely gonna be an MVP for this fight. But one of the best ones, like I said, for this one is gonna be the Frost Adventurer. I used him in one of my teams. Let me see if I can show you the team over there. I think it's not gonna let me. Maybe I can just look at it. See this team over here? Adventurer, Usha, Olgan, not Scroll, just with Frost, Voresh, and Ripikas. Together, these ones did 50 million on stage 2, okay? After the 50%, these ones did 50 million, and it's all because the shields, timings, the attack penalty, and all the other stuff. So that's really important. Now let's have a look who other ones we have in there for the shields, because like I said, they're really important. But one of the ones that I spoke earlier, you know, I mentioned the shields, is again Gladros. He's gonna be a monster because again, not only does he bring you shields, but debuff immunity as well. So keep in mind that shield with some, you know, with any extra utility are gonna be extremely important in this fight and should make your fight easier so you can get yourself as much damage as possible. But yeah, I think I have covered pretty much everything that I could in this fight. Oh yeah, I guess one last thing to mention at the end. It's not really mentioned anywhere, but something that's extremely important is to have AoE damage dealers, okay? Because your single target damage dealers, they're just not gonna do as much damage. It's not really explained, but I think the reason behind that is, let me try and show you. Let me try and maybe get Sagomir in there, okay? So as an example, let's see. If I have Sagomir, he has a hit, okay? You see this one, it shows like only one. I have a feeling that it actually counts as hitting several targets because there's the arm, there's the body, and then there's the tail. I don't know why, but they kind of count like different targets. You see when he does that, it appears on several targets. I might be wrong, but that's what I've seen. If you have AoE damage dealers, I think from what I've seen, they do more damage because they can hit all 3 body parts instead of just 1. So keep that in mind as well. But anyway, guess we're gonna leave it at this for today. It is a pretty long video, but I hope it's helpful. I hope it gives you guys some ideas to be able to build some good teams, have some fun with it, and, you know, get the maximum rewards possible to get yourself ready for the new season. So yeah, this is gonna be it for the video today, guys. As always, if you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video if it helped you, and yeah, I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace, love, take care everyone. Bye guys.